Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and after this episode of Gleipnir ended, I sat down staring at the screen wondering, what the hell kind of screenshots am I gonna grab today without YouTube trying to kill me? Before we get into the video proper though, I do, as always, want to give a big thank you to those of you who shared last week's Gleipnir video over on Twitter, at Bubbalubber, at Matt87Eagle, at Sirius9752, at Infamous519, and at NymadXI. Thanks so much for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, everybody, and if you too would like to have your name shouted out in next week's Gleipnir video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout the first 5 of you out in next week's video. Now, with that said, we're gonna go ahead and get into it, so, like, comment, subscribe, cuck. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Poor guy. So when we start this week's episode, it basically opens once again as Gleipnir, or Gleipnir, depending on your pronunciation, seems to like to do. We open with a cold open, nice and chilly, as we see Claire being introduced to a eccentric group. And we see her sort of, like, Claire, like, not so much in Claire form, but in Clarici, or Shuer, I forget what we called it, Clarici, in Clarici form, like, where the two of them are together. We see them being introduced to again, like I said, a rather eclectic group, and then the OP hits. So you're sort of left wondering, what the heck was that about? Well, don't worry, let's go back. Once again, referencing Comic Pop. You should be watching them. They're a good YouTube channel if you like comic books. Anyway, we find out that Claire has been putting a fair amount of plans into motion. Claire was actually able to grab the phone from the dude who got sliced and diced the last week, and she finds the name of the dude who was being blackmailed by the weird Oni-looking dude. And she calls this dude. Turns out he's a guy from their school, which, of course he is, very convenient. But I mean, like, hey, in fairness, like, this is happening in that neighborhood. It's not that far of a stretch to assume that some of these people would also be classmates of theirs that they maybe haven't interacted with before. So yeah, Claire calls this dude up. He is a nervous-looking dude. Like, you could just tell immediately he is in way over his head. And he doesn't really take the whole blackmail thing well. He's not even really excited to find out that the guy who he was previously being blackmailed by is dead. I would be like, woohoo, but apparently not. I mean, in fairness, it was a gory picture that Claire sent, so, like, yeah, I guess that's fair. My initial reaction probably would be to yak, and then after that I'd cheer. But yeah, so he's like, okay, what do you want? And Claire says, I want in on your little group. And I assume that the group that she's taught, like, because you see her flipping through the phone, so she just makes like a 1+1 type of leap in logic where, okay, so this dude's hanging out with these people, they must be a whole unit instead of just meeting in this one area one time. Like, she's already well aware, like, okay, this dude clearly must be part of a group. If there's a group of people, they must all be hunting for coins. This might be the best chance to get answers, since if it's a whole group of people, that's a way bigger pool of knowledge to sort of swim around in. So Claire is more than willing to make that leap in her own safety and join said group. It also leads to another really sweet moment with Shuichi, because it's basically them sort of like, in this little opening scene, it's them like recapping what has happened thus far so that they can move forward. So it's them saying like, okay, so just to reconvene, to regather our thoughts, like, we're trying to get into this group, we need to find coins, there's a freaky alien, your sister's the one who turned me into this thing, we were trying to find your sister, she's likely up in the forest with that group, so they might have the best chance at finding Elena, so that's the plan, right? And Claire's like, yep, that's the plan, pretty much it. And Shuichi says something that I thought was really interesting, was, do you really think that you and I met by chance? And I think that's really, that's an interesting topic, right? Because it's like, is there a level of destiny at play here? Like, the fact that Elena's the one who turned Shuichi into this thing, and Shuichi just happens to find, like, Claire not that long later. It's interesting. I do wonder if maybe there's like a greater, either a greater mind game at play, like some sort of, like the alien himself is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers, or if it's just the idea that fate is in play and that the universe has a horrible sense of humor and is setting up all the different pieces to fall just the way they want. I'm not sure, but it's a sweet little moment because Claire said, like, didn't I already tell you before? Like we're supposed to get through this together, and that's how we're going to do it. So, like, if you choose to do something, I'm going to do that. If I choose to do something, I hope that you would do that. And so it's the two of them just reestablishing that they are a team. They're a team, despite some shenanigans that happen. And this is the biggest thing, right? So when Claire goes to this place, they make a pact. And this is the part of the episode that got me feeling some kind of way, because the pact that Claire has to make with the leader, I don't recall her name. She's a cool character. We'll get into her in just a sec. But the pact that she has to make is, it's interesting. It starts off a little bit. It's not so much the pact itself that I find interesting as much as the pre-ceremony, let's say, the ceremony beforehand, and it gets a little bit saucy. Should we say saucy? It gets a little bit saucy, and it's not even like it's just Claire that's getting saucy. It's Shuichi as well, with this Lady Stig type character who we later learn is named Yoshioka. But she looks like a lady version of the Stig, so I thought that was kind of fun. But yeah, so like, because she basically, like, we'll get into it later, but yeah, some stuff happens with Shuichi and this girl. So it's sort of, and it's interesting too, because when it's happening, both characters, even though they're not technically a couple, like, even though technically they are not a couple, they feel uncomfortable in these intimate situations because it's not the other person, because it's not Claire, because it's not Shuichi. So both of them feel uncomfortable in these moments. And it really cements the ship for me, because I'm like, hell yeah, like, I am here for the Claire and Shuichi ship. I am here. It is the OTP. It is grand. I will say, I did think Shuichi and Yoshioka, because I had a moment in the episode where let's go ahead and talk about them first, and we'll get into Claire stuff later. But there is a moment where I thought Shuichi and Yoshioka were, like, really, really cute together. It's when he's, like, showing her how he can, like, jump around, and he jump around, get up and get down. He can jump around, and how quick he is, and how it's probably easier for him to just go look for her missing wallets, because that's why they leave. It's easier for him to probably go find the missing wallet on his own. And as for Yoshioka, she has, like, a ton of really cute moments in the episode. They really want you to like this girl, which tells me she's probably gonna die. But they really stress, like, she's really sweet. The way that she, like, sort of scratches, gives Shuichi, like, head scritches, and, like, wants to pet him, and is sort of drawn to him because she reminds him, or he reminds her rather, of some sort of dog, some sort of animal. And as we learn throughout the episode, Yoshioka wants to eventually grow up to be a veterinarian, which is very sweet. And when she turned, she basically got cat ears. And the weirdest thing is Shuichi goes like, "Oh, you're a weirdo." And I'm like, she's the weirdo? You turned into this. I mean, you didn't do that of your own volition, but still, like, I thought that was really funny. I'm like, bruh, look in the mirror before, like, he in glass houses should not throw stones, my dude. But I did think it was funny. And then it gets, like, immediately like, oh, okay, this isn't gonna work as a ship. These two would never work, because when Yoshioka climbs into Shuichi, because this is a thing, because she's like, well, if I have to go with you so that you can know what my wallet looks like, although when we eventually see the wallet, I'm like, yeah, he probably would have been able to tell that was yours, because it's super pink. But she hops in anyway, and not by the way, not that pink is like, oh, she's a girl, so her wallet would be pink. No, it's just that fits her character to a T. It's like super pink and, like, girly, and that's who Yoshioka comes across as. So it's like, yeah, it would have been really obvious to tell whose wallet it was. Plus the fact that it's a wallet in the forest, like, who else would it belong to? But anyway, so she's like, well, it'll be easier for you to find the wallet if I'm not around, but you need me to tell you what the wallet is, so I'll just climb inside. She gets totally, like all clothes off, by the way, which I was, like, surprised by that, because even Shuichi's just like, wait, everything? Why everything? And she's like, you're excited by that, I could tell, because I have this mind link with you. And he's like, I am not. But, like, at the same time, when she's in there, she says, like, you're thinking about her, aren't you? And Shuichi's like, yeah. Like, he tries not to say yeah, but you can tell he's like, yeah. And I thought that this was again, the whole like climbing inside of Shuichi thing is so clearly, and not even like so clearly a metaphor. Like it is almost like not even a metaphor at all, like just because of the way that it is. But it was interesting. And the one dude there, I said I called him a cuck at the beginning of the video. I feel real bad for him. Ikeuchi, the dude with like the weird binocular like telescope head. I feel really bad for this dude, but my issue with him is I'm like, okay, if you have a problem with Shuichi, then say something. Especially watching it go that far for that long, like that sounds like a you problem, dude. Like every time he kept getting upset, I'm like, okay, so say something now. You could say something 10 minutes ago. You could have said something 10 minutes before that. Like you could have said something at any point in time, dude, but you didn't. So I don't really feel that bad for you. By the end of the episode too, they find the wallet, but not our gang. Elena's gang finds the wallet. So I thought that was kind of neat, but we're going to go ahead and talk very briefly about Claire and the Pact. So I find this to be really interesting as well, because Claire has the same sort of situation as Shuichi, where she's kind of uncomfortable, and she says, like, it's not that I don't like people like you. Love takes all forms, honestly, but shouldn't we get to maybe know each other first? How about dinner and a movie? And when the girl's like, yeah, sure. Like, you could tell the leader actually felt bad. And I appreciate that. I was like, ooh, consent. She said no. The leader's like, okay, no problem. No worries. And it gets up, and I'm like, oh, look at that. Yay. How pleasant. I guess it's about the small victories here. But yeah, like she gets up and off, and she's like, okay, yeah, no worries. Let's actually just do the pact now then. And Claire's like, all right, cool. Because Claire basically finds out that the group's leader does know her sister. And she's like, oh, you're Elena's kid sister. Holy shit. Okay. And she's like, okay, I'll help you, but you have to join us. And Claire's like, yeah, totally, sure. She's not even hesitant at all. She's just like, all right, like, yeah, if you got information on her, then yeah, fine, whatever. Like, and it shows her conviction. She's like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And the pact is that basically the leader makes a choker neck, like that's one of those like choker necklaces, out of her hair, which is a little gross, but whatever. So she makes a choker out of her hair, and it goes around your neck. And if you tell the secrets of the leader or the group, then the choker when it goes around your neck, like it kind of fuses with your skin, so people don't notice that it's there. It like goes into you, and if you tell the secrets, it'll chop your head off, which is like, holy shit, that's really intense. It's also very specific, and what I love is that the show actually calls out, like, yes, this is very specific. Here's why it's very specific. And they actually go into the fact that the leader was in this relationship. It was inappropriate, and it was with a teacher, and the teacher felt bad, so the teacher called it off. And the girl told the secret to a friend of hers, and the friend told everybody else, and the teacher jumps off the planet. And it really scarred this individual, really scarred the leader. And so she, when making her wish with like the coins, she had a very specific goal in mind. And if you're very specific, it's way easier to get what you want from the coins, which I find very interesting, and hopefully will come back into play at some point. It was a really interesting episode. It's funny because not a whole lot happened. It was mainly just those two scenes for like the entire episode. It was really calm and yet very like world building and character developing type of episode, and honestly I really dug it. This is one of the more quiet but interesting episodes of the show. With that said, everybody, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. Question of the day today: what is your favorite pet? Since the one character wants to be a veterinarian, I thought, sure, why not talk about pets? What's your favorite type of pet? Let me know in the comments. And with that said, we've reached the end of the video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, then don't forget to boop the up snoot and share if you care. And if you want to see me rambling even more, then feel free to follow me on Twitter or join our good folks Discord, both of which are linked in the doobly-doo. Lastly, if you're feeling generous, consider checking out our Patreon page to help support this channel. Speaking of which, I'd like to give a big thank you to our lovely patrons, such as Izevi, Alex, Andrew W., Branson C., Calvin A., Crowbar of Irony, Daniel G., Deep Not That Deep, Digger the Fox, Dominic G., Emily, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria T., Marshall B., Mater, Mirth Mouser, Nymad, Cell, Shadow Creative, Stephen G., The Suavest Orange, Tristan G., and Veridin. Thank you all so much for your continued support over on Patreon, and once again, thank you for checking out today's video. Hope you guys have a lovely day, and until next time, you stay classy, AnyTube, and wash your dang hands.